Hello and welcome to the Hold All Tickets World Pool Preview with Group 1 racing across Sydney, Melbourne and in South Africa this weekend. I'm your host, Alex Donnelly. Now, we are brought to you by the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the World Pool. Bet with the World Pool. So as said today, 3 racing jurisdictions with a couple of races from each of these meetings throughout and Group 1s on each card this weekend. We are also going to be joined by Group 1 winning trainer Sam Freedman, who has a bunch of horses in across this weekend in Sydney and Melbourne. So we will talk to him about his chances throughout both of the cards this weekend and run through all of them because some of them are in outside World Pool races as well. So as said, we've got Australian Cup Day at Flemington, races 6, 7 and 8. Vinery and Tancred Stakes Day at Rosehill, which is races 8, 9 and 10. And in South Africa, it is South African Derby Day at Turffontein, races 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. So a massive day over there. Hopefully they do get on the track there. There was some issues there overnight as we record on Thursday morning. Now, let's have a quick chat about the bet types that we do in the World Pool this weekend. Of course, you've got your standard win and place bets. You can bet win, you can bet place, you can bet each way there. Your Quinellas, your exactas, your duets, your trifectas, and your first fours for all of your multiple players are available in Australia this weekend as a part of the World Pool. That is enough of my waffling. We need to hear from Group 1 winning trainer Sam Freedman about his stable's chances this weekend. Joined now by Group 1 winning trainer Sam Freedman, who alongside his father Anthony have got a bunch of horses in across Sydney and Melbourne this weekend. How are we, Sam?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
So we'll start off in Melbourne. Early in the day there, you've got Glentanius kicking off over 1,600 metres. Is he a horse that's on his way, I suppose, through to Brisbane and some of those staying races later this year?
Yeah, I'd say that's right. He's look, he had a nice trial on Monday, and we thought we'd line up Saturday just over a trip short of his best. He's obviously had a fair layoff, and so I would expect him to improve plenty for the run. And once he gets out in trips, so I'd watch him on Saturday. But once he gets to the 3rd, 4th up, I'd say he'll start to hit his straps.
We go along to race number 6. It's the Bob Hoisted, and Midwest is there after a blistering win last start in a Vobis race, but he's had a really good jump out since as well. He looks really well prepped up for this.
Yeah, he's in a really good spot, Midwest. He's that was his first look down the straight. Obviously, acquitted himself very well. So we thought we'd follow the same recipe. He's facing a much stronger race and a little bit more competition for the lead, which is obviously his favoured pattern to jump out and take control of a race. But, we've got a good jockey on board. We'll certainly look to ride him with intent. And, he obviously showed a liking for the straight, which was a little query last start. But, it looks a nice race for him.
And in the Australian Cup, the main race of the day, 2,000 metres, and I suppose, deny knowledge, she was absolutely breathtaking first up. But you're taking on, obviously, Pride of Jenny, who was so good first up herself. How do the tactics sort of and thought processes a couple of days out, knowing you've got another horse who likes to go hard like Jenny does alongside your horse? Like, how are you sort of approaching this, or is it Craig will figure it out because Craig Williams is one of the best?
Yeah, well, Craig Williams, obviously, he'll have a pretty in-depth plan, I would think, going into the race. I don't think I'll have to give him too many instructions. But look, her biggest asset is obviously her speed. She's, she shares the same traits as Pride of Jenny, albeit not being at the exact same level as her. But, I think we'd be doing an injustice to our mare if we tried, something different with her. She's shown herself to be, very tough in those scenarios when she's challenged, and we know she runs out a strong 2,000 metres. She was a bold front runner in the Caulfield Cup last spring and stuck on for 5th there. So, she's capable of reeling off really good sectionals. And, whether she's leading or at some point challenging for the lead, I've no doubt they'll be rolling from a little way out, I would think.
I was going to ask that because obviously Jenny loves to lead and really ramps it up, and your mare has done that as well in the past when she won her Caulfield Stakes last prep. Is it something she doesn't have to lead, but as long as she's not too far off Pride of Jenny, as we've seen, a lot of races have been lost because everyone's just let Pride of Jenny get so far in front that they just can't catch her?
Yeah, well, it's a funny race, isn't it? Because I dare say the opposition are very happy that we're there. They're sure that there's going to be something to bridge the gap, hopefully, for some of the other chances, between Pride of Jenny and the rest of the field. And, it's been a funny racing pattern. Obviously, Pride of Jenny's been an amazing horse. I watch a lot of her races and think, you'd love to have seen something there to at least push her a touch. I mean, I think it was the Queen Elizabeth, was it? Last year where I mean that was just it was like two different races, and everyone's sitting back hoping that she'd come back to them. But one thing she doesn't do, she doesn't stop Pride of Jenny. She just keeps her speed and keeps going along. So an amazing mare, and she may well out tough us on Saturday. The market says that she's going to be very hard to beat, but I'm certainly hopeful that our mare's in the best form that she can be in, and we'll hopefully give her a bit of a shake.
We head up the highway to Sydney. A bit of rain around there at the moment, potentially up to 60 mils, which is not ideal leading into a Group 1 day. But in race number 2, you've got one of the more interesting runners of the day there in Katsumi Orochi, who had the one start in the Blue Diamond Prelude, was then purchased by the My Racehorse mob and has been since transferred to use. Had a jump out in a trial, but looking at his form from his first start and the way he raced, this looks a very nice horse.
He's a really nice horse. He's a horse we've been getting to know over the last month or so, and he's impressed us of what we've seen. What we have noticed, he's not really comfortable on soft and heavy ground. His trial the other day was on heavy, and he travelled nicely through it and then just came off the bridle and chased really well, but not as dynamic as he is, I'd say, on top of the ground. So it'll be a bit of a weather watch for him on Saturday. If we got the rain that's predicted, I'd say he's likely to come out. But if we fluke getting onto a good surface, he can run very well.
And I noticed that you've got the tongue tie on him there as well. Is that just something that you like to put on some of these 2-year-olds just as they get a bit of experience?
Yeah, look, it was just something we noticed. He was just playing around with his tongue a little bit in his work at home. And look, I'm not sure that'll be making a huge difference for him, but more just to combat the possibility of him getting his tongue over the bit.
We go across to the race number 4, the Neville Selwood. Post-Impressionist is in as well, but he hasn't got the best of heavy track records. You found J-Mac second up. Will he take his place if it's really wet?
Well, again, that'll be a bit of a wait and see with him. He thought he returned really well at Flemington in a slowly run race off a bit of a layoff and closed off with some good sectionals. So I think the horse is in a really good spot, and he's primed to run very well wherever that may be. But as you said, his form on heavy is nowhere near as strong as it is on top of the ground. So just something we'll have to assess again.
Race 7's the Star Kingdom, and a horse who may be doing the bit of the rain dance at the moment is Punch Lane. He looks really well prepped up for a first up run, and he is unbeaten on heavy tracks.
Well, that's right. Yeah, he's one that we've been sort of holding off and waiting for some soft ground. Obviously, he was excellent in Queensland last year on bottomless tracks in back-to-back weeks. So I'd say, he'll run a very good race. 1,200 may be short of his best, but if it was a very heavy track, that obviously makes it, a bigger test for them and maybe more a 1,100 metre contest, which would suit him. Looks like there's decent speed, but, he's a horse, you leave him alone, just let him flow along, and, he's very honest on that sort of ground. He'll run well fresh.
Any aims for him this prep, or just take him through and potentially up to Brisbane again?
Well, yeah, like you said, probably get him up to Brisbane at some stage, but it's very much track dependent. He's a horse that definitely at the level that he's at now with a high rating, he needs soft and heavy ground to show his best.
In the final event of the day, you've got 2 runners. We'll start off with number 9, Rhapsody Chick. Barrier 16, but she's another one. She was a revelation in the winter of last year, winning a couple of races on the bounce. And again, she's another one that looks to have trialled up well.
Well, that's right. Yeah, look, he's been very good on heavy ground throughout his career and trialled up nicely. The barrier, who's to know how the track will play by this race? We'll be back. I'd say he generally is slow out of the gates, and he'll probably improve for the run, but very good soft track form, and another one like Punch Lane that'll be in for a nice autumn or winter campaign on these sort of tracks.
And the final one is number 3 up the top, Greenfly, another one that with J-Mac on board, he's had 2 trials and looked to have been good. Another one that does enjoy the soft track.
Yeah, he's a real wet tracker. He loves it. He's again, those last 3 we've spoken of, will be really suited by the conditions if they come on Saturday. His trials have been probably as sharp as I've seen him return. He's generally taken a run, and he's generally quite laid back in his trials, but he's really been attacking the line this time around. So he looks primed for a really good prep this time around.
And you did just mention it before with obviously barrier 16 with Rhapsody Chick. Not sure how that track's going to play. How have you thought Rosehill has played over the past 2 weeks, whereas you couldn't be near the fence 2 weeks ago, and last week you sort of needed to be fence in run? As a trainer, and I suppose with owners as well, is that really frustrating where week to week you don't know what you're going to get?
Well, it is to a degree. I mean, it's an outdoor sport, I suppose, and you're in the elements, and it's not an easy job being a track manager. So I don't envy, their job, particularly with the weather and the unknowns of how much rain they'll get. So I think just, some horses it's going to work for, some it's not, and you just be open with connections as the day goes on to say, look, unfortunately today we're not going to be able to get near it. Osmar was a good example for us last week where, she had good speed, was able to get up there and make use of the track. So, it ebbs and flows, and you've just got to cop. Sometimes you'll be on the bad end of it. But, like I said, I mean, hopefully we get a really fair track on Saturday, and, we'd love some rain for a few of our chances. But, it's, as I said, it's an outdoor sport, so we'll just adapt as we can.
And just across the day of all the chances that you've got in, who do you think is your best of the lot?
I think Green Fly, he'll hopefully relish the conditions, and, he's been trialling well on top of the ground as well, which is, again, a bit of a surprise. So I think he'll give a good shake up there.
Well, we'll take that one. Hopefully he can get us out in the last. Thank you very much, Sam.
No worries. Cheers.
Always good to hear from Sam Freedman about his horse's chances this week, and really interested to see how Deny Knowledge will go up against Pride of Jenny. It is a fascinating, fascinating race. But we need to start into our tips for this weekend. The first track, as said, is Flemington for Australian Cup Day. Now, we are recording this in Melbourne on Thursday morning, and the track should be in a good four by the time we get to race day. There is a little bit of rain around in Melbourne, but as we've seen in the past, Flemington does drain well. The rail is in the true position as well. The first of the races comes up in race number 6. It's the Bob Hoisted. It's over 1,000 metres. We did hear from Sam Freedman about Midwest, but look, a lot of nice horses in this race. I'm happy just to sit back and watch them on in this first race. We've got a lot of races to bet in here. It is a very tricky one, and maybe one to play around with your multiples if you're there, but I'm happy to sit back and watch and see how the straight track plays, because race number 7 is also a straight track race. It is the Hong Kong Jockey Club World Pool Sprint Classic, and I'm pretty keen on one here. Number 6, Alabama Lass for Ken and Bev Kelso. Craig Williams takes the ride. Now, just have a look at the set weights and penalties conditions here. 104 greater on 57 kilos with a 59 maximum and a 55 limit. She is absolutely thrown in at the weights. Last start in New Zealand at Ellerslie in the King's Plate, she absolutely smashed Cricketti and Sacred Satono over the 1,200 metres. She was good in the railway where beaten by Cricketti there, but started favourite. She was beaten as a short price favourite in the 1,000 guineas over 1,600 metres. She is an out-and-out sprinter, and Ken and Bev Kelso have been noted in the media as saying she is here for a quick look around on dry tracks to pick up some stake money before potentially coming back later in the spring. And she is also a Vobis horse. This is a sales race, of course, so there's a bit of a bonus involved there for winning it too. I think it's an extra 20 or 30,000. You get 300 grand for winning it, so this could be a really big day for the Kelsos. But I think she's a really smart filly, and I think she's going to get the job done. Race number 8 is the Australian Cup. It is the main race of the day at Flemington, and it is our final World Pool race. And I'm going to play a little bit of a Cornella in this race because it's a pretty tricky race. So we did hear from Sam Freedman about the tactics, and well, Craig Williams does come up with his own plans as well as to what Deny Knowledge will do. But I'm going to play Cornella with number 4 Middle Earth for Kieran Maher and Mark Zahra. Now, Mark Zahra is the usual rider of Deny Knowledge, yet he stays on the Kieran Maher gelding that he won on first up here. He was a strong winner. It was a weaker race, but I love that he had the 2,000 metre grounding after a couple of jump outs and trials leading into this. You go back through his form, he was third in a Hardwick Stakes last season at Royal Ascot. He was a winner of a group race at Newbury as well. He brings excellent form to this, was touted as a Melbourne Cup chance last year, didn't make the Melbourne Cup for a couple of injury reasons, but look, he's here, he's second up, he's got a good record second up, and I'm just not doubting the genius of Kieran Maher. Speaking of the genius of Kieran Maher, in my Quinella there is a Pride of Jenny. How can you not have her in your numbers? She was fantastic first up. Probably her best first up rating of her life. The fact that she's done that over 1,800 metres off a bleeding attack as well shows that she's in for a really, really good preparation. Second up, 8 starts, 2 wins, 4 seconds, and a third at 2,000 metres. Obviously run down in this race last year, but if she can get up and rolling and left alone, she's going to be hard to catch. And I'm putting Zardozi in there. This is her grand final. Flemington, she's got a great record at. She loomed up to win the Melbourne Cup. She was great in an Empire Rose 3 days before a Melbourne Cup, and she's a winner of an Oaks here as well. She loves the big open spaces of Flemington. She's been building towards this, and you've got to have her in your Quinella. So in this race, a Quinella 4, 6, and 8 at Flemington, a race number 8, the Australian Cup. Let's get to Rosehill. We have a few races going on there. So the first of which is a race number 8 this weekend. And look, really tricky race to start off there, given we've got all the rain around at Rosehill this weekend. It is the Tancred Stakes over 2,400 metres. It is one of the Group 1s there. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea because Dubai Honour's come over. Apparently, he hasn't travelled as well. If he's on his form, he probably wins this race. You got Zaire, who started favourite over Dubai Honour in a Group 1 last preparation as well. He's going to be thereabouts as well. Circle of Fire loves a wet track. Arapaho, winner of this race. Duke de Sessa's come back in good form. Let's just sit on our hands and see if we can learn a few things for the Sydney Cup and the Queen Elizabeth in a few weeks' time. It is going to be a great race, though, that's for sure. Race number 9 is the Doncaster Prelude over 1,500 metres. And I'm pretty keen on number 2, Amenable here for Mick Price, Michael Kent Jr. and Chad Schofield. Look, he was fantastic first up at Newcastle in the Newcastle Stakes, which is a Group 3 race. He just couldn't get past Sandpaper, but he had 58 kilos there. He was giving him all 4 kilos, and he was right out the back, rocketed home there. Second up, hasn't got a great second up record in the past, but I'm looking at his preparation last time in where he came back and really built into the preparation. A wet track shouldn't be too much of a concern. He's placed on heavy tracks before and on soft tracks. I just need to see him win another race, but I think he can get the job done in race number 9 on Saturday at Rosehill. The final event is the Hong Kong Jockey Club World Pool at Rosehill this weekend. It is over 1,400 metres. We did hear from Sam Friedman about his chances there, and I like that he talked up Greenfly because I'm having a Quinella in this race, and Greenfly was the first horse that I put in this, number 3. I don't need to tell you any more about this horse. He's trialled well. He's a good wet tracker. He's got J-Mac. He ticks all the boxes that we need. Number 6, Les Vampires in as well. A good winner last start over the 1,400 metres by Piero out of a Rocker Gibraltar mare. I wouldn't be surprised if he does handle a wet track. Look at his form this time last year. He was 4th to Zardozi in a Far He was 8th beaten a length and a half in a Randwick Guineas, and then he was beaten by Ducasse and Tannhauser in a Carbine Club. That is fantastic form. 3rd up from a spell. He looks set to go here because the winner of this race can go up in the handicaps, and he does hold a Doncaster handicap nomination as well. I'm also going to throw in Cloudland at number 7 into the Quinella. He's a good wet tracker. If he puts it all together, he's a bit of an enigma who really doesn't know what he's doing at the best of times, but he was a winner last preparation at Flemington in the Greys race. As said, has good wet track form, and 1,400 metres suits him right down to the ground. So I don't mind the Quinella there. 3, 6, and 7 to round out the day at Rosehill. All right. Got to get across to South Africa, Turffontein, because it is the big Group 1 day there, the South African Derby. A lot of races there, a lot of Group 1 races throughout the day there. The first race is the Grade 1 Tab Empress Club Stakes. And I'm going a win bet at number 5, Supermante Dolce, who pulled up with an issue last start, had mucus when it was given a vet exam. So look, you can't really run fast if you've got mucus in your throat, that's for sure. Complete forgive that, but you have a look at the prior form to that. She was quite good when winning a Group 2 and is unbeaten at the track and distance. So I'm happy to have a win bet in that first event in Supermante Dolce. Race number 7 is the Grade 1 computer form sprint, and look, they're going to fly in this one. They're going to go very quick, and I'm happy to have an each-way bet on number 4, Cruise Control, who is a flying machine. Has to travel across to Turffontein, but look, if he does, have a look at the 1,000-metre record. 7 wins from 11 starts over 1,000 metres. 1,000-metre races are built for 1,000-metre horses, so I'm happy to have something on him each way because, look, he may be big odds there in the World Pool on Saturday night. Race number 8 is the Grade 1 Champions Challenge here, and look, this one looks an absolute lottery with Fire Attack the one to beat, but does draw one of the widest gates in the field. So look, we've had a few bets. We can sit back and have a watch of this one and see how we go coming into the last few events of the race meet at Turffontein this weekend. But the Grade 1 Champions Challenge, I'm happy to sit back, watch, and let it all unfold. Race number 9 is the main event. It is a South African Derby. It is a Group 1, of course, over the 24 of 50 metres. This is a pretty simple one. I'm going to have two bets in this race. The first is a win bet on number 7, Immediate Edge, unbeaten in 3 runs to date. Had to work pretty hard last start to get past Wild Intent, but the look of the race was the step up to 24.50 is going to suit Immediate Edge perfectly. He could go 4 for 4 in this. As I said, 24.50 looks to suit, and I think he's going to get the job done. But as said, I will have an exactor with number 6, Wild Intent, who did make him work last start to get past him. The only knock I have is the 24.50. If this was 2,000, I'd be super, super keen on the exactor, but I think his class can take him a long way. The next event is race number 10. It is the Grade 2 South African Oaks, and provided Fiery Pegasus can run out the trip, she should win this race. It's as simple as that. But look, she should be able to get the job done. She is going to be pretty short, I think, on the world pool there. But as we've seen in a lot of Oakses throughout the world, class gets these fillies a long way. They don't have to have the best staying ability. They may just be the best horse, and in time, she could be a really good mile, 2,000 metre horse. But class should get her home there. The bet in this race, though, is the exactor with number 3, Gabera. I think that's a pretty good exactor there in the South African Oaks because Gabera looks like she'll run out the trip no problem. The final event is a Group 2 over 1,400 metres, and after a big day and going through the form of this one, I'm happy to let it all unfold and watch it, and hopefully we've made a bundle of money along the way on Saturday across the World Pool. So let's let race number 11 go along without us having to put our hands in our pockets, because it is a big day throughout the day across the World Pool. Now, that is a lot of races previewed and done for the World Pool this weekend. Of course, we are brought to you by the Hong Kong Jockey Club. Bet with the world. As said, Rosehill, Flemington and Turffontein this weekend. A couple of more World Pool meetings coming up over the coming weeks. We'll also have a special preview of FWD Champions Day, which is coming up next month in Hong Kong. There is a lot going on with the World Pool at the moment. I think our next preview will be day 2 of the championships, which is Queen Elizabeth Day at Royal Randwick. That'll be a massive day. Hopefully we can get someone from the Chris Waller stable on the show, because that would be absolutely fantastic. But as said, a big thank you to the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the World Pool for sponsoring the Hold All Tickets World Pool preview. Enjoy your day this weekend. We'll catch you next time on the Hold All Tickets World Pool preview.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.